Well, what I make of it is that he's a disgrace, and there's no way to slice that.
Antonio Brown is back on Stephen A. Smith's radar, and this time, he's being exposed for a wild $150,000 jewelry scam. The former wide receiver just can't stay out of trouble, and this latest scandal might be the final nail in the coffin of his already damaged reputation. Let me break down exactly why. The web of deception unravels. We all know Stephen A. Smith doesn't hold back. He's come for everyone from Patrick Mahomes to Kyrie Irving. And now, he's got Antonio Brown in his crosshairs over his jaw-dropping jewelry scam. Let's rewind to how it all started. In 2022, Ryan Cain, a successful Florida entrepreneur and owner of Secure the Bag Entertainment, found himself in what he thought was a golden opportunity. After a Rolling Loud performance on the plane ride back, Antonio Brown, the enigmatic former NFL superstar, was showing off his collection of flashy jewelry and luxury timepieces.
After his Rolling Loud performance on the plane ride back, he was showing me the watches and he was telling me he would sell one to me, told me they were real.
Cain, like many successful entrepreneurs, had an eye for luxury and an appreciation for fine craftsmanship. When Brown offered to sell him what he claimed was a genuine Richard Mille RM011 watch, Cain saw it as more than just a purchase. It was an investment, a piece of horological artistry that would appreciate in value while serving as a symbol of his success. The next day, Cain found himself at Brown's house, where the former NFL star had his entire collection laid out like a jeweler's showcase. The atmosphere was casual, almost friendly, as they discussed not just the watch, but also potential music collaborations, including a track featuring Lil Wayne that they wanted to drop. Brown was persuasive, charismatic even, trying to convince Cain to purchase even more expensive pieces from his collection. Brown claimed the watch was worth over $400,000, but Cain managed to negotiate the price down to $160,000, still a substantial sum, but one that seemed reasonable for a genuine Richard Mille timepiece. The negotiation itself seemed to add legitimacy to the transaction. After all, why would someone selling a fake watch engage in such detailed price discussions?
So I bought the watch, so we agreed to a price. He wanted a lot more for it, but we finally agreed to the $160. The next day I got home, I wired him the money the next morning.
Cain's trust in Brown wasn't unfounded. Here was a man who had earned over $80 million during his NFL career, someone who had played in Super Bowls, caught touchdowns on the biggest stages, and lived a lifestyle that most could only dream of. The idea that such a person would risk his reputation over a fake watch seemed inconceivable. But trust, as Cain would soon discover, can be a dangerous thing when placed in the wrong hands. The wire transfer went through smoothly, and Cain had what he believed was a genuine Richard Mille watch. For a brief moment, everything seemed perfect. He had acquired a piece of luxury that would serve as both an investment and a conversation starter. However, Cain was a careful businessman, and like any prudent investor, he wanted to ensure his new acquisition. This decision, to get the watch appraised for insurance purposes, would prove to be the moment that everything unraveled.
So I went to get insurance on it and for it to get appraised, and they told me that it was fraudulent.
The revelation hit Cain like a physical blow. The watch he had purchased for $160,000, believing it to be worth over $400,000, was nothing more than an elaborate fake. The timepiece was later appraised as being worth only a few $100, a devastating discovery that transformed what should have been a luxury purchase into a costly lesson in misplaced trust. But the story gets even more shocking when we examine where Brown likely acquired these watches. Reports indicate that Brown purchased the watch and others like it for less than $500 each from a dealer in Dubai. Some sources suggest he paid as little as $200 for the fake timepiece, which means he was attempting to profit by more than 80,000% on a counterfeit item. The mathematical brutality of this deception is staggering. Brown had taken a $200 fake watch and convinced Cain that it was worth $400,000, ultimately selling it for $160,000. This wasn't just a simple case of mistaken identity or an honest mistake. This was a calculated scheme that demonstrated a level of premeditation that would make even seasoned con artists take notes. When Cain confronted Brown about the fraudulent watch, hoping for some explanation or resolution, Brown's response was as telling as it was dismissive.
He blocked me immediately.
So he didn't respond at all, like acknowledge anything?
This wasn't the behavior of someone who had made an honest mistake. This action alone spoke volumes about Brown's awareness of what he had done.
I sent him a text message that said, "The watch you sold me was fake. I want my money back." And then I was sending a screenshot of my incoming wire instructions. Before I could even send that, he blocked me.
This blocking behavior became a pattern that would repeat itself throughout Kane's various business dealings with Brown, suggesting a systematic approach to avoiding accountability rather than isolated incidents of miscommunication. The fake watch, however, was just the tip of the iceberg. Kane would soon discover that this wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of deceptive practices that painted a picture of a man whose post-NFL career had devolved into a series of increasingly desperate schemes. Kane filed a lawsuit in Broward County, Florida, accusing Brown of fraud and seeking $160,000 plus interest. But this legal action would reveal even more disturbing details about Brown's alleged business practices, including fraudulent expense reports, fake celebrity endorsements, and a pattern of behavior that suggested someone who had lost all regard for honesty and integrity. The case would ultimately make its way through the Florida court system, where a judge would have to determine whether one of the NFL's most talented receivers had indeed become one of sport's most brazen con artists. But before we get to that dramatic conclusion, we need to understand the full scope of the alleged deception, because the fake watch was just the beginning of a much larger and more complex web of fraud that would shock even those who thought they knew Antonio Brown's capacity for controversy. The music industry con and Stephen A's explosive response. While the fake watch scandal was devastating enough, it represented only a fraction of the alleged schemes that Ryan Kane would eventually uncover. The deeper Kane dug into his business relationship with Brown, the more shocking the revelations became. Kane, as the owner of Secure the Bag Entertainment, STB, had filed a lawsuit against Brown in Sarasota County, Florida, accusing him of attempting to defraud the company out of $500,000. This wasn't just about a single fake watch anymore. This was about a systematic attempt to manipulate the music industry through celebrity name-dropping and fabricated business relationships.
How much money would you say in total you've given Antonio Brown?
Over $300,000.
The scope of Kane's financial involvement with Brown was staggering. Beyond the $160,000 for the fake watch, Kane had provided Brown with a $150,000 advance for his music career and had been presented with what he would later discover was a completely fraudulent expense report. But the most audacious part of Brown's alleged scheme involved one of hip-hop's biggest names, Lil Wayne. The lawsuit claimed that Brown used rapper Lil Wayne's name to inflate a music deal, claiming a $250,000 feature fee when Lil Wayne's team confirmed no such agreement existed.
We talked about the feature, and AB told me that Lil Wayne would only take $250,000 for the feature in cash.
$250,000 just in a bag of
$250,000.
Couldn't do a bank wire or check, nothing.
Nope. Lil Wayne only takes cash, and it was $250K.
The specificity of Brown's lie was particularly calculating. He didn't just claim that Lil Wayne wanted $250,000 for a feature, he insisted that the rap legend would only accept payment in cash delivered in a bag. This detail seemed designed to make the transaction more difficult to verify and to create a sense of urgency that would bypass normal business protocols. When Kane took the initiative to verify this claim, the entire fabrication crumbled. Not only had Brown completely fabricated the business relationship, but Kane discovered that the actual terms would have been significantly different from what Brown had claimed. The revelation that Lil Wayne's team had never even spoken with Brown about a feature was damaging enough, but the fact that they conducted business through legitimate channels, wires, not cash, made Brown's story even more suspicious. Brown allegedly tried to pocket an additional $100,000 through this fabricated deal, demonstrating a level of calculated deception that went far beyond simple misunderstanding. The fraudulent expense reports added another layer to Brown's alleged schemes. The lawsuit claimed that Brown submitted fraudulent expenses, including $87,000 for a studio rental and $8,500 for private jet travel. When combined with the fake Lil Wayne feature, Brown had allegedly sent Kane a $178,000 Rolling Loud expense bill that Kane refused to pay.
That's why I wouldn't pay the invoice, because I signed him to a record deal to make music, not to just spend $178,000 on travel expenses for Rolling.
The absurdity of charging $178,000 in expenses for a Rolling Loud performance became even more apparent when Kane pointed out that Rolling Loud typically pays artists to perform, not the other way around. This pattern of behavior suggested that Brown was operating with a complete disregard for business ethics and professional relationships. When Kane refused to pay the fraudulent expenses, Brown's response was to attempt to circumvent his business arrangements entirely.
We booked an appearance for him, and then after this happened with the watch and everything at his house that day, he tried to go around us to cut out our fee and went straight to the person who we booked him with.
When that attempt failed, Brown's response was to lash out with racist and homophobic slurs, demonstrating a level of unprofessionalism that would have been shocking even for someone without his public profile. It was against this backdrop of alleged fraud, deception, and professional misconduct that Stephen A. Smith would deliver one of his most scathing critiques of an athlete's character. Smith, who had been following Brown's various controversies throughout his career, was particularly incensed by what he saw as a betrayal of trust, not just of Kane, but of everyone who had supported Brown during his troubled times. Smith's response to Brown's latest scandal was both personal and professional. He had watched Brown's career spiral from greatness to infamy, and the fake watch scandal seemed to represent everything that was wrong with the former NFL star's post-football life.
Antonio Brown is a guy, I'm not going to disrespect Antonio Brown by bringing in one thing after another as it pertains to all the things that he got into, y'all. We just going to focus on this by saying this much. Knowing all the stuff that you went through, and that Tom Brady obviously vouched for you.
Smith's critique was particularly focused on the betrayal of Tom Brady, who had vouched for Brown and given him opportunities when no one else would. The fake vaccination card incident that Smith was addressing in this particular segment was just one example of how Brown had repeatedly let down people who had supported him. Smith's point was that Brown's behavior represented more than just individual poor decisions. It was a pattern of betraying the trust of people who had gone out of their way to help him. Tom Brady had not only advocated for Brown to be signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but had also allowed him to live in his home at one point. The betrayal was made even more stark by the fact that Brown had actually contributed to the Buccaneers' Super Bowl victory, catching a touchdown in the championship game. Despite this success, Brown continued to make decisions that undermined not only his own career, but also the people who had supported him. Smith's frustration with Brown's behavior was evident in his analysis of the fake vaccination card incident, but his criticisms applied equally to the broader pattern of alleged fraudulent behavior that Kane had exposed. The fake watch scandal wasn't just about money, it was about character, integrity, and the fundamental breakdown of trust that occurs when someone exploits their celebrity status for personal gain. Smith's emphasis on the lying was particularly relevant to the Kane situation. Just as Brown had lied about his vaccination status, he had allegedly lied about the authenticity of luxury watches, the legitimacy of celebrity endorsements, and the nature of business expenses. The pattern was clear. Brown had become someone who viewed deception as a legitimate business strategy. The fake watch scandal and the broader allegations of music industry fraud painted a picture of someone who had lost not just his NFL career, but his moral compass. Kane filed the lawsuit accusing Brown of breach of contract and defamation after Brown made derogatory social media posts about STB, adding another layer to the already complex web of allegations. This wasn't just a business deal gone wrong. According to Kane, the entire relationship had been orchestrated as an elaborate con designed to extract as much money as possible through various fraudulent means. The problem with Brown's shenanigans is that it isn't a one-off thing. In fact, his history of legal troubles and social controversies date back to his early career. Brown's history of scandals. Antonio Brown, once hailed as one of the NFL's greatest wide receivers, has a career that is as notable for its off-field controversies as for its on-field brilliance. From his rise as a sixth-round draft pick to his tumultuous exit from the league, Brown's journey has been punctuated by a series of scandals that have significantly tarnished his legacy. In 2012, former Steelers teammate Ryan Clark revealed that Brown had begun asserting himself as the franchise, yelling at defensive coordinator Dick LeBeau and other defenders not to touch him during practice, signaling an emerging ego that would later fuel conflict. By 2016, a significant turning point came during a playoff game against the Cincinnati Bengals, where Brown suffered a concussion from a hit by linebacker Vontaze Burfict. Some speculate this head injury contributed to his subsequent erratic behavior, though no definitive medical link has been established. Brown's troubles escalated in 2017 when he live-streamed a post-game locker room speech by Steelers coach Mike Tomlin on Facebook Live, capturing Tomlin's colorful language about the New England Patriots. The broadcast, viewed by approximately 40,000 people, violated team privacy and drew criticism, especially as a teammate could be heard warning others about social media conduct. This incident marked the beginning of Brown's problematic relationship with social media, which would repeatedly amplify his controversies. In 2018, Brown's behavior became increasingly disruptive. He allegedly threw furniture from his 14th floor Miami condo, narrowly missing a 22-month-old child below, resulting in a lawsuit for damages. That same year, tensions with Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger boiled over, leading Brown to skip practices and sit out the team's final game of the season, effectively ending his tenure with Pittsburgh. Traded to the Oakland Raiders in 2019, Brown's stint was short-lived and chaotic. His arrival was theatrical. He showed up to training camp in a hot air balloon, but quickly turned problematic. Brown clashed with the NFL over its new helmet safety regulations, refusing to wear an approved model and threatening to retire. He even attempted to disguise his old band helmet by painting it to match the new ones. Further complicating matters, Brown suffered severe frostbite on his feet from a cryotherapy session due to improper footwear, an injury he bizarrely shared on Instagram. His conflicts with Raiders. General manager Mike Mayock escalated, with reports of Brown using racial slurs and threatening physical violence. Fined $54,000 for missing team activities, Brown posted the fine letter online, further antagonizing the team. Ultimately, he requested and was granted his release, voiding $30 million in guaranteed money. This seemed like nothing to him since he had a habit of boasting about his wealth.
He came on the We and Mommy podcast and said he's made over $100 million. Is it possible that he spent $100 million? Is Antonio Brown broke?
Hours after his Raiders release, Brown signed with the New England Patriots, but his tenure was derailed by serious allegations. In September 2019, Brittany Taylor, a former trainer and college acquaintance, filed a civil lawsuit accusing Brown of sexually assaulting her on 3 occasions in 2017 and 2018. The lawsuit detailed incidents of non-consensual advances, including an alleged rape in May 2018. Brown denied the allegations, countersuing for defamation, and the case was settled in 2021 with no disclosed terms. A second woman accused Brown of sexual misconduct, and he reportedly sent her threatening text messages, prompting further scrutiny. Nike ended its endorsement deal with Brown, and the Patriots released him after just 1 game. The NFL investigated, and while no criminal charges were filed, Brown's reputation took a significant hit. Brown's legal issues continued to mount. In January 2020, he was charged with felony burglary and battery after allegedly attacking a moving truck driver, pleading no contest and receiving 2 years of probation. Later that year, the NFL suspended him for 8 games for violating its personal conduct policy, citing the truck driver incident and other off-field behavior. In November 2020, Brown faced accusations of destroying a security camera and throwing a bicycle at a guard shack in his gated community, though no charges were filed. His personal life also drew attention, with recorded verbal abuse toward the mother of his children and multiple allegations of unpaid debts. Signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020 at the urging of Tom Brady, Brown initially kept a low profile, contributing to the team's Super Bowl LV victory. However, trouble resurfaced in 2021 when he was suspended for 3 games for misrepresenting his COVID-19 vaccination status. The most dramatic moment came on January 2nd, 2022, during a game against the New York Jets. Frustrated with his playing time, Brown removed his jersey, shoulder pads, and gloves, threw them into the stands, and jogged shirtless off the field, waving to the crowd. Coach Bruce Arians declared Brown no longer a Buck, marking his final NFL appearance. Brown later claimed he was cut for refusing to play while injured, but his history cast doubt on his explanation. Since leaving the NFL, Brown's controversies have persisted. In 2022, he allegedly exposed himself to a woman at a Dubai hotel pool, further damaging his public image. In January 2023, his Snapchat account was suspended after he posted an explicit photo, violating platform guidelines. Later that year, he was arrested for failing to pay child support, released after posting a $15,000 bond. In December 2022, Brown faced a domestic violence warrant for allegedly throwing a shoe at his ex-fiancée and threatening her with their children present. In 2024, his bankruptcy filing raised concerns when a trustee accused him of failing to disclose assets, including social media accounts and property transfers, highlighting inconsistencies in his financial reporting. Most recently, in May 2025, Brown was charged with attempted murder following a shooting incident outside a Miami boxing event. A warrant alleges he fired at a man during a physical altercation, though Brown claimed on social media he was jumped and targeted for his jewelry. He remains at large, with reports suggesting he may have left the country. Despite his undeniable talent, Brown holds records for the most prolific 6-year stretch by an NFL receiver. His off-field behavior has overshadowed his achievements. His actions, from social media outbursts to serious legal allegations, have led many to question his character and mental health, with some linking his behavior to the 2016 concussion. Brown believes he will be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2027, his first year of eligibility, but analysts predict a wait due to his controversies, drawing comparisons to Terrell Owens, who faced delays for less severe issues. Posts on X reflect public sentiment, with users calling Brown a criminal and questioning his financial and legal troubles, underscoring the challenge he faces in rehabilitating his image. Antonio Brown's career is a cautionary tale of talent undone by turmoil. His scandals, ranging from locker room disruptions to allegations of sexual assault and attempted murder, have eclipsed his on-field brilliance, leaving a legacy defined by controversy. As legal battles battles and public scrutiny continue, Brown's story serves as a stark reminder of these consequences of unchecked behavior, even for the most gifted athletes. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.